AVoIPoE. We're here at the Peerless AV event, and I'm here with Joe Ingless.
Hello, Thea. How you doing?
Dante. Joe, what's going on? What's the latest around Dante AV?
So here we are, still promoting the fantastic video effort we've added to Dante. So we've got some brilliant partners here today that are also showcasing their Dante-enabled products. So I'm sure you've seen some of them here walking around. But yeah, to be honest here, we're kind of keeping the message simple. It's all about enjoying the same things you do with Dante Audio, but now on the video side. So if you've got a project which has a Dante Audio requirement, which many do, then we now also have a complete drop-in solution for video using the various flavors we offer between AV Ultra, AV-H and AV-A, of course. And hopefully see, as you walk around, you're starting to see some of those products come through from the various
I've seen the Dante spoken here.
Yeah, we're good at getting those out.
Joe, what I wanted to ask you is like the professional services aspect,
Sure.
because you guys have got such a legacy of being able to train people, especially people that don't understand networking.
Absolutely.
Bringing them through. You were talking about musicians and people like that. And that, you know, and tell me about that part of the services.
Yeah, massively. So I think the kind of training and enablement part of what Audinate do around Dante is something we're very, very proud of. You know, when we first kind of came onto the scene many years ago, you know, AV sitting on networks was a very kind of alien and kind of slightly unknown concept. And really, for the protocol and for the platform to be a success, we had to do that education. And thankfully, the industry's moved on a lot, and it's much more of an accepted thing. Rather than kind of talking about the advantages and the benefits and the why, we talk a lot more about the how and, you know, and what's possible. So there's absolutely that acceptance factor now, and you can see that everywhere. But it's still a massive part of what we do. It's still something we're very proud of. So on the training side, we obviously have lots of online webinars which you can listen back to and watch in your own time and complete at your leisure, if you like. We also do a lot of in-class stuff, in-person trainings. We've also just recently done a Dante Mastery class as well. I believe it was here in the UK, but that's really for kind of like power users of Dante who really use it in anger and want to do lots of kind of weird and wacky stuff with it. So we try and look after every level of user and make it as easy as possible to work with us. The professional services is actually a really interesting one. That's slightly different to kind of the traditional training that I just covered. And what we really recognise is that with some of the more advanced Dante installations, which a lot of our partners and consultants and customers use, sometimes there can be quite advanced requirements around, you know, networking, routing across subnets, integration of lots of devices, managing them using DDM. Some of our customers have very complex project requirements, and that's only now growing even more with the introduction of things like Dante Connect and the cloud. So professional services isn't about, you know, taking anything away or replicating anything that those partners would do, but it's about giving them some back-end expertise that they can lean on when they do have those advanced projects, you know, the big stadiums and, you know, perhaps big international global rollouts for corporates, that we can kind of validate and underwrite those system designs and that network topology to say, yes, from a Dante perspective, we're not concerned that there's anything here which is going to cause any issues. So it's just about, I guess, kind of, I don't want to use the term gun for hire, but kind of being that, that voice of expertise that they can lean on to just help underwrite some of their designs.
And one of the things that I've also seen is this collaboration at a very high level between codecs. And I've seen Netgear really pushing that, where you've got SDVOE, NDI, Dante, you know, what else is there?
Pick your choice, yeah.
You know, so, everything else is, and you're all working together at a high level. And that is so reassuring from, you know, a consultant's perspective or an SI's perspective to know that everyone is thinking not like how they were perhaps 10 years ago, where they promised you interoperability, but, you know, you can now really see there's a level of interoperability being, you know, designed in at an early stage. And you guys are talking at a high level, you know, with one another, and you know, and we're actually finding the application chooses the codec or whatever they go, and it's not so much a competition. It becomes about all of us working together, collaborating to help people around network AV.
You're absolutely right, Sia, and I think that's reflected very much in our approach. You know, as we've spoken in the past, we've often talked about, and again, it's not a term I like to use, but horses for courses, you know, choosing the right technology for the right use case. And really that's why when you look at Dante AV, we have the three flavors that we do between AV Ultra at the top end, AV-H where, you know, you can afford a bit more latency and high compression at the cost of saving some network headroom, and then AV-A down the middle. So you've got those kind of three choices based on what your requirements are. Yet regardless of what you choose, you're always going to have that common workflow. You're always going to be using tools that you're familiar with in a Dante environment. You're always going to maintain that Dante audio operability. So you get that consistent workflow and that familiarity while still having design freedom and design choice to choose the right technology for the right application.
And where were you seeing most of that, in terms of verticals, most of that uptake for a lot of the Dante AV stuff?
So obviously, I think education and corporate are kind of definitely primary markets at the moment, just because of the nature of the I guess the breadth of the integration that they do and the kind of device types that they have. There's lots of Dante devices involved in those kinds of systems, but naturally also live events as well. I think, you know, we've AJA obviously released their kind of 4KT and 4KR encoder that was on tour with you know, Ramstein and a few other groups, and that was very well received because it's almost kind of like video for audio engineers in those environments. If they've got a Dante network and they're working with Dante and they're familiar with Dante, you know, no longer do they have to have another person sat next to them doing the video stuff that they're not involved with. It literally exists side by side, and it very much works in the same way that, you know, audio does in terms of how you interact with it. So all of a sudden, these two things can come together and exist in a single system, and that's hugely powerful for some of these guys. So of course, with our heritage in live production as well, we're seeing some great inroads there.
And that, again, to me, it speaks to the whole thing around breaking silos. So traditionally, where you'd have, you know, audio completely separate to video, completely separate to lighting, now you've got a situation where everything is amalgamating, and those silos, traditional silos, are breaking down.
Exactly. And I think that's a really exciting time for the industry because, as you're saying, you know, I think with that greater flexibility, we create more potential, right? So long may that continue.
Brilliant. Joe, have a great show.
Always a pleasure to see you.
Brilliant.
Enjoy.
Okay. Take care. See you later.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.